We got married really, really young. I was 17. I would say like traditional Christian.
The best way I know to communicate is the Haredi of Christianity.
What drove you to where you are right now?
I had big questions even as a young child. I think at first we thought we were trying to find a different denomination. We thought maybe our questions could be answered within Christianity.
What were some of the questions that you guys had?
I really had a problem with the whole idea of this Messiah figure was sent because God made a mistake and needed to create a new religion. I also had a problem with praying to a human. Why can't I just talk to God?
Meet Emuna and Yaakov Clemens, married at 17 and 21 years old, raised deep in the Christian South, asking questions most people never stop to ask. What started as a search for answers inside Christianity slowly became something much bigger. Questions about God, truth, history, and obligation. Long before they ever met a Jew, they were already living Jewish lives in isolation, reading texts, keeping Shabbos, and searching for a roadmap they didn't even know existed. This is a story how those questions led them somewhere they never expected.
Maybe we should actually go back and read the Old Testament. It says to keep Shabbat. Well, how do we do that? It says to keep Passover. How do we do that?
I had to struggle with these things.
So you're telling me from 2014 to 2020 there was no conversion yet?
I'm wondering, like, wait, maybe we are supposed to convert, but I don't know how.
And you guys are living as Jews.
It got to that point.
We sat down, okay, we need to go find a place to convert to Judaism. This is something that we're going to choose. I've never felt so alone in my entire life. That emptiness was a cry to say, okay, we need this.
What's up, my friends? Welcome to another episode of the Meaningful People Podcast. This podcast is made possible by my friends at PZ Deals. Yes, never pay full price again when you go in the PZ Deals app right now. You want to purchase something on Amazon. Maybe you saw something in a store and you're like, oh, I don't really buy things in the store. They go online. Well, the place you're going to go online is the PZ Deals app. Never pay full price again when you download the PZ Deals app. This week, I sat down with Yaakov and Emuna Clemens. This is not your typical, we were Christian, we converted type of story. This is a story of some couple that lived for like 6 years as Jews, and they had no idea that they needed even to convert to Judaism. They were living as Jews. And they're like, wait a minute, like, is this what we're supposed to be doing? They're pulling texts, reading Torah, keeping Yom Kippur, and doing things to the extent of was not even stuff that we do, which they thought was right. But their life changed when they realized, oh my gosh, like, we should convert. It's a crazy journey. Emuna and Yaakov Clemens, you're going to love this episode of them. Big thank you to Shimmy J for making all of these episodes possible. If you at home right now, if you're benefiting from our podcast, Meaningful People, maybe you're growing, if you're laughing, if you're crying, it's in the merit of Shimmy J. Of course, he also is a sponsor of our Behind the Faces website. That's behindthefaces.org. Make sure to check that out for all mental health resources and content. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. Now, enjoy this episode. So these are like my favorite types of episodes. I'll tell you why. It's kind of like I get to relax a little bit and just hear a very, very good story, which you guys both have. And it's really cool how it kind of intertwines. So I guess, you know, Emuna, Yaakov, take me back from the beginning of your guys' story. I guess you could start with you, Emuna, and Yaakov. I'm sure you kind of get involved there as well with your own story, and I'm sure I'll have plenty of questions along the way. But I guess take me back to the beginning.
It actually starts together because we got married really, really young. I was 17 and you were
21.
I was done with high school and into college, but I was a ballerina and we met at a performance. But I was already questioning God, and we were trying to figure things out as a newlywed couple. And we started asking the really big questions.
Wow.
And
Where do you guys grow up? Like, where in the world is this?
So she's from Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm from Oxford, Mississippi.
Very southern.
Everyone goes where? And then I simply say, an hour and a half south of Memphis, Tennessee. Oh, okay. Exactly. Like, I think we know where Memphis is.
Yeah.
One of those Jewish
And
communities down south.
what was your upbringing like?
I would say like traditional Christian. I grew up occasionally going to church, and of course the big like Christmas, Easter. I was so involved with my dance training that that really like took up a lot of my life. And yeah, I think I had big questions even as a young child into my teenage years. And when we met and he had the big questions too, it was like, okay, cool. Let's question everything. He had a very, very different upbringing than I did. You always say,
Yaakov, tell me about that. Like, what was your upbringing like?
I was raised in church, so like I think from the moment I was born, I was there, and it wasn't just the typical Sunday service. It was Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, which was a little bit more of a relaxed service. And the upbringing was very. The best way I know to communicate is basically to say the Haredi of Christianity, like the strictest of the strict. I mean, we wore pants, collared shirts, women wore skirts. It was very modest. No smoking, no drinking, no dancing, no cussing. It was a very strict, especially in church. Outside the walls, you did the best you could, but our upbringing was very that way.
I was secular compared to his upbringing.
Yeah, there was never alcohol, not even wine in the home. I think my parents had a bottle of champagne from when they got married. So like it was very, very strict that way. Not questioning.
Very interesting. What type of Christianity was this?
So we're both Protestant. The denomination I was Southern Baptist. And you were...
I was non-denominational. That just... I don't even know what to call that. Like,
the closest thing to Christianity. Yeah.
I did not grow up learning doctrine. I didn't grow up like in theology classes of any kind. The extent of my religious upbringing was like church on Sunday. And I even got in later years towards high school where I didn't want to go. Just my questions weren't being answered. And it just wasn't near as strict of an upbringing.
So you're a ballerina, and Yaakov, you're, I guess, by this performance, and that's where you guys meet. You mentioned you got married at 17. I mean, that's obviously very young.
Yeah.
Is that the norm within your circles, Yaakov? Like why marriage at such a young age?
Yeah, so I was 21, which is a more typical, even young, for nowadays standards. I think that the biggest influence of the young age was that you got to make sure you're ready. And when I met Amuna, it was her maturity level was double that of mine. And so it wasn't that an age thing at this point. We were both ready for each other. We were both ready to start this next phase of our lives. I was living in a home that I had purchased. I was single. I was lonely. I had a job. I was working. Everything was good. And I felt then someone to fill that. And thank God, Baruch Hashem, that it was Amuna who even at 17 was that person.
What did your families think about that? Were they on board with this decision?
Now that I think about it, probably less. They were probably more upset about us getting married so young than they were about us converting to Judaism, I would assume. It was a big deal.
Definitely.
Like, it was a lot of worry, a lot of concern. I think there was a lot of doubt. Both friends and family. Several friends voiced that. I
had never dated anybody. I had never shown interest. I was always on my own lane. Like, boys were not something that I even thought about. So I'm sure it shocked my family and my friends that all of a sudden I was saying I want to marry this guy, especially because we met in February and we were engaged in September and married by October. So even by Christian standards, this was very fast.
It was fast, yeah.
Wow. Well, that wasn't really the only shock that they ended up getting.
Right.
Because, like you mentioned, shortly thereafter, there's a lot of questions you guys had. Now, I guess take me through that period of your life, because, one would think, okay, so if you have questions about Christianity, maybe you just, again, Amuna, you grew up, you were you weren't super religious. Yaakov, you were, but what if you just lived a kind of light Christian life? What drove you to where you are right now? I guess, like, how'd that progress?
That's a really good question. I think at first we thought we were trying to find a different denomination because there's so many Christian denominations to choose from. We thought maybe we were in the wrong one. Maybe our questions could be answered within Christianity and we just hadn't found the right spot. We weren't in the correct community or found the right pastor yet. And so we actually went through a phase of trying different churches. And it just, it never felt right. And then we started, watching videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Trying to find the answers to our questions. It started out Christian, and then I guess started it was more about the questions that we were wanting answered than the denomination. We stopped paying attention to that, and we're really just trying to find the answers to these questions.
The why behind it.
What were some of the questions that you guys had?
I think one of the ones that popped out at first, because I think because of the time of year it was the observance of Halloween. It's one of the ones that I picked up the first, because even being raised Southern Baptist, it's like they don't do the more strict, less strict Halloween service of trick or treating and going around doing the typical secular stuff. It was a lot more laid back. It was a lot more trunk or treat. They'd set stuff up at churches, and you could go from vehicle to vehicle and get candy. And so it was like a compromise with the secular world and with Christianity, and it still didn't feel right. And it felt weird that several people would come to church and they would be dressed as these demonic things, and people would be all upset about it. And why? Where's the text? Where's the rules? Where's the rule book to say what is okay and what isn't okay? Why do we do this? Why don't we not do this?
Right.
And I think that just started the framework of all of our questions. I was struggling more with bigger doctrine inside of the Southern Baptist doctrine, such as big questions like once saved, always saved. Once you have salvation through this Messiah figure and you've accepted this religion, no matter what you do your entire life, no matter what, you're still going to go to this afterlife in heaven with this person, and everything's going to be good no matter what you do. And this didn't make sense, and I wanted to know more that, because it logically to me didn't make sense in this world or maybe even in the next.
I wanted to know why God changed according to the Christian theology. The whole idea of this Messiah figure was sent because God made a mistake and needed to create a new religion. And we're also being told in Christianity, at least in the circles I was in, God is so great, God is so big, he's wonderful, he does all these things, and then we're being told he messed up. And I really had a problem with that. I also had a problem with praying to a human. Why can't I just talk to God? Those big questions that I had.
Okay, so the answer process of you, I guess, watching YouTube videos, I'm guessing you're really not getting the answers that were satisfying to you guys.
We got answers that sent us down roads. There was some very interesting things, because a lot of it went back to history, the foundation stones of Christianity. What made them say this? What changed? What didn't change? Why did it change? How did it go from Saturday Shabbat to Sunday Sabbath? These different things that we could find some answers to the history and enough sources to really pinpoint, okay, this was the person, Constantine in 300 BC did this and or AD, I guess. But that was enough information to start really questioning more and lead us down the correct path, that I think finally let us just bump, as you're backing out of that Christianity and continuing to back up and back up and back up, you're going to run into Judaism. Right. You're going to go back to the foundation.
The whole idea of God changing, if we follow that further and go, okay, so if Christianity says that the Old Testament, the Tanakh part of their Bible, doesn't apply anymore, maybe we should actually go back and read the Old Testament. Maybe we should see, not that we didn't read it in Christianity, but we didn't read it through the eyes of these questions. And so we went back and we're starting to read the Torah literally. It says to keep Shabbat. Well, how do we do that? It says to keep Passover. How do we do that? Sukkot. It doesn't answer these questions either. We just go, okay, I think we should be doing this.
I think several.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
What's very interesting is you guys you're very young and you're married, so it's like you're going through this together. Yeah, so you guys sitting there by the dinner table and just going through different sources and texts and trying to figure
it is. It's very accurate, because it came in different stages actually. So she was in school a lot, finishing up college very young, and I'm have more time. I'm working for a family business at this point, and so I have when I get home, I'm done. Like I don't have to continue to work. And so I gave me time to really dig in and really wrestle. You should see my old Bible with the Christian writings, and like everything's marked out. And I've got Old Testament. I've got Tanakh and Torah.
Wonder what people, whoever found that in Goodwill or wherever we donated all these books. Like, what
someone's going, how can I use this? But it's a roadmap, because it was my roadmap. I had to struggle with these things. I had to figure out the truth. It wasn't that all of it was like fake or lies. It's just when you took it back to history, it wasn't relevant. It didn't say what I was told that it said. In fact, more often than not, it agreed with a more Jewish approach to our observance of our faith.
Not that we knew that at the time.
Not that we knew that at the time at all, but you're going, anyway, so you're crossing all this stuff out, and moving on. And then when you finished college, it was the other way. We had started our own business. I was out working. I was managing things, doing things, taking up way too much time. So it gave you the time to really dig in. And so we were like, it was both together at the same time, but it was at different like wavelengths.
Yeah.
Right. Amuna, what kind of gave you that drive? Because again, Yaakov grew up super religious. So religion is something that he was accustomed to and was seeking. But for you, I mean, I feel like you could have probably just lived your life devoid of any deep religion, no?
I could have, but I also did believe in God. And I do think that I have always been a spiritual person. I just didn't know where to direct that when I was younger. Probably because I didn't know, I didn't have any religion framework to put it into. I didn't know much Christianity. I wasn't taught theology and doctrine, but also because I disagreed with things that I was told. But I did always believe in God and pray to a higher power and like have this connection. So when we started questioning and asking what would be our religious path, sorry, baby. Yeah, I wanted to have a connection. One of the things I was told in Christianity was when praying, like you should just pour your heart out to God and these thoughts and words should come to mind. But I'm a very introverted person. You're being told to stand before the Almighty God and just say whatever comes to mind. Well, my mind went blank. There was nothing to, I didn't know what to say. I did believe that God heard the inner desires of my heart, but like if you're being told to just speak to God, like what am I supposed to do?
Right.
And so in Judaism, it's not like that. You're given a book, you're told exactly what to say. That's wonderful for me.
I think it's also been very inspiring for me because you brought out a point there that I hadn't really thought about in those words and in that context, but I've always admired your seeking of the truth without a religious upbringing. Like it was programmed into me to seek God, to seek a higher power, to seek truth and to do what is right. And you just had this compass that took you there without that. And so, yeah, it's always been.
Yeah. It's like Amuna is not only a Gioras, but she's also a Balas Tshuva and a Gioras. And Yaakov, you're a Ger. Because
that's right.
You kind of swapped one religion.
Full gear. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But Yaakov, I imagine like while this is going on, first of all, what were your names, I guess, back then? Because it's funny, we're speaking about this time of your life. I'm guessing you weren't Yaakov, right?
I kind of was. I was Jacob. I went by Jake, though.
Okay.
So
Amuna, and you were Amuna?
No, I was Gwen.
Okay. So, okay, interesting. So I guess we'll get to the name change, like what drove you, although it makes sense. But Yaakov, is there a time where your family or your parents are kind of seeing this evolution and they're trying to like, again, I don't know. Again, you compared it to growing up kind of Haredi Christian, and if a Haredi child will start, leaving his path and his religion, there's obviously gonna be a lot of disapproval, in the community and the parents. What was that like for you and your family?
I felt it more, I think, from the community, from the church. I got to the point where I say it in a direct way, and I should be careful how I say it. I shouldn't say I was kicked out of the church. It was an agreed upon. I was a youth pastor, and I became a youth pastor in the church, and I was teaching a group of youth for years, and I'd grown that group to over 35, and we're doing some cool things. But as I was struggling with my doctrine, I was starting to let that slip into what I was teaching. And it kind of came to a head when kids were talking to their parents, hey, this is what he's saying. What are you saying? Why are you saying this? And so it's kind of a mutually agreed this should stop. Not that I should be kicked out or anything like that from the church. They still wanted me to come and figure those different things out. But it's something that I still feel the kind of that pain from, that I wasn't as welcome or as accepted with my struggle and my questions as I would have been. My parents, on the other hand, I think the first year that we didn't do Christmas, my mom didn't put up a Christmas tree. She lived right across the pond from us, so we could see like into their home. They have a beautiful log cabin. And so from our house, we could see inside there, and they would have seen the Christmas tree. And without asking, without saying anything, they just knew we weren't observing Christmas. We had told them this. She took it upon herself to not put up a Christmas tree. If she did, maybe she put it in the basement. I don't know.
We didn't care, but it was
house?
sweet of her.
In her own home, yeah.
We didn't care.
So that it wouldn't
Out of like
offend.
sensitivity to you guys?
Yeah.
Correct. I mean, I've never had that conversation with her. I want to now, but it was always touched me that it was that accepting. Like, of course, then after there was Christmas trees, and they understood our journey a little bit more. Thank God, because we don't want them to feel like they had to do those things, that they would be offensive by doing those. So it was
Right.
it was a pretty big acceptance, I had gone through a real time with my parents. I was a crazy kid. And I came out of it, and I walked away from the family business, started my own almost in direct competition with the family business. And so there was some real tension there. And so that my family was still very loving and supportive and kind to this whole thing. It's unbelievable. It really is.
Yeah, that sounds very, very sweet and considerate of them.
We'll be right back to this episode of the podcast. Quick word from my friends at Kol El Chabad. Yes, it's not a Meaningful People episode if we don't show ourselves giving some tzedakah on the Pushka app. Download the Pushka app right now, pushka.cc/meaningful, and let me see how your streak can get. Can you give 15 days in a row, 20 days in a row, 30 days in a row, 300 days in a row? Can you? Well, download the Pushka app right now. It's not about how much you give, it's the frequency in which you give tzedakah. So go ahead, download the Pushka app right now, pushka.cc/meaningful, an incredible app made from Kol El Chabad. Support them in their holy, holy work. Easier than ever now with the Pushka app. That is pushka.cc/meaningful. Now, when you're on that plane, ready to go to Orlando, after you donate on the Pushka app, you're thinking, wait, where am I staying? Well, Eden Gardens is that place. And how you're going to book that place to Eden Gardens is through Nest Vacation Homes. That is Nest Vacation Homes. There happens to be, yes, just got some breaking news, 2 houses available at Eden Gardens through Nest Vacation Homes for Pesach. And it's not just, oh, here's a house, enjoy. They have these catering options as well. 2 available. You want them? Reach out right now. But let's say not for Pesach. Maybe for a family gathering. Maybe for a different yontif. You want to get a beautiful place to go vacation with your family, extended family. You want 12 bedrooms? You want 10 bedrooms? It's possible because they have these beautiful rentals through Nest Vacation Homes in Eden Gardens in Orlando, Florida. And don't worry, guys, the cold there is behind us. It's warm weather ahead. Click the link in the show notes. Nest Vacation Homes is the place that you want to get your house in Eden Gardens. And 2 houses available for Pesach. Who's going to get them? I think it's going to be one of you. Go check them out right now.
There's definitely a moment for you guys where I don't know if you made a decision like, wait, this is Judaism, and maybe we should really look into this more. Or you tell me, or maybe you guys said, hey, you were saying, well, this is Shabbos. What's Shabbos? How do we keep Shabbos? Well, this is what it says. Let's try to do that.
Well,
so what kind of happened there?
We were asking those questions, reading things very literally, and we started to try to ask, like, how do we answer this? And I don't know what gave me the thought, but I was like, if somebody's wanting to convert to Judaism, they're going to be asking similar questions. Maybe we should look at what people are learning when they convert to Judaism. Just a what if, like, we're not considering that yet, ever. Like, that
Right.
wasn't in our thought process. So somehow I Google conversion books and end up on the Chicago Rabbinical Council's website, like Orthodox site, and the Rabbinical Council of America in New York. They both have wonderful lists of conversion books. And I ordered them on Amazon. I ordered Siddurim on Amazon. This was 2014, I think. And so I started reading I love to read. I've read so many books, and I was just pouring through these books, trying to answer questions and loving every bit of it. I think, what was it you
Who
said?
were some of the authors of this book? I'm curious. Like, what are the names of some
How
of
to
these books?
How to be a Jew.
Yeah, How to Be a Jew. I think that was Rabbi Donin. Practical Judaism. I don't remember. Lots of Rabbi Sachs books we ended up getting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What else?
15, 18 books
Yeah.
or so. We passed those on to someone else who was in conversion before we left the States.
Yeah, we ordered so many books because I was loving everything. I liked the connection to ritual. I liked knowing that I was doing what I should. Like, I'm being told this is the right thing to do, and I'm being given a roadmap, like things I can actually connect to God by doing instead of guessing and wondering if I was doing it correctly. I'm a very black and white person. And finally, instead of feeling like I was living in the gray, I was being told this is how to do it. This is how to connect. This is how to have a relationship with the God of the universe. I loved it.
Yeah, interesting. So, what's the next step? You know, you're getting this knowledge, but there's obviously there's one thing to know something, then there's another thing to actually take action. What was that action?
I mean, you got a Siddur in 2014. And so I was reading out loud every morning. I was making the morning coffee, and I could read the English Art Scroll Siddur through the Amidah all the way through before I finished making our pour over coffee. She was in.
Just a reminder: we've not met a Jew at this point.
No,
we have
this
no
is nothing.
idea.
It said read it 3
We're in
times a day.
isolation.
You're living in Oxford?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're in Oxford. We're in Mississippi.
The
Yeah.
closest community is an hour and a half.
there?
There's more than 0. I used to say 0, but I just found out there's like a high up professor, Jewish professor there at Ole Miss. And there's got to be more because close to every hog you go into the local Kroger there, and the sections would be wiped out. And I'm like looking in people's buggies. Where are the Jews? Where are you? Because you're here somewhere, but there's not definitely not an Orthodox. I think the closest even conservatives a good 15-minute drive from Oxford.
How do you guys get to? How do you get the art scroll?
Well, being on an Orthodox site,
Right.
book lists also say this is a recommended Siddur to start with. It's all on the CRC and RCA websites. It tells you exactly what to purchase, what to get. So I was just copying and pasting the titles and going to Amazon and saying, okay, this is what we need.
And then figuring out which page to turn to. And this says, what is Shacharit?
Yeah.
I guess that means morning. Let's go there.
Right.
So yeah, that was it started there and it became very literal. Even in 2014, it was very very literal. Like don't eat ostrich. Okay, we got that. But we knew there was more, and there was these gray zones of mixing meat and milk, and you're like, well, that's crazy. All it says is something about boiling a goat in mother's milk. Okay, that doesn't mean that. Let's keep going. And then you start getting into stuff that goes very obviously. You need more depth there, and I think that really started the Judaism was when we knew, okay, what does tefillin mean? How do you do this? And I'm like, well, maybe we missed it. Maybe the Jews missed it. Maybe it means a tattoo here, or maybe it means I'm trying to figure this out literally in my own mind, reinventing the wheel. And all of a sudden, you know what? If you had it in a scroll and you strapped it to your head, that would probably be a good idea. Let's try that, And then so it became okay. Let's put the ego down. Let's put the how-to down, and let's look to Judaism. And that was hard for me because it was always been a figure-it-out kind of religion, and we were doing good. We were figuring out a lot of stuff until you get to the end of it, and you're like, okay, no, this is not it. We had a few funnies like Yom Kippur where we read the entire Machzor from cover to cover without eating or drinking. I'd give it to her, she'd give it to me. I'd give it to her, she'd give it to me. Back and forth, sitting.
Leaders repetition.
Repetition, everything. There was not a page other than maybe
we read the entire Machzor.
The entire thing.
Oh, this is on Yom Kippur, you said?
This is Yom Kippur. This is the day. We knew it was a big day. We knew we needed to read some stuff, and it took all day.
It was probably 2016.
It was
That's amazing.
Maybe.
Yeah, it was 2016. Yeah.
I once heard a story. I once heard a story. There was a yeshiva in New York that, primarily had a lot of Baalei Tshuva, so people who were becoming religious, and it was right before Purim, and one of the guys who's becoming religious, he was from now. He said to his friend, he's like, "Yo, you guys ready for this big fast?" Like, what are you talking about? They're like, Tinus Esther. They're like, that's one of the shortest fasts we have. He's like, isn't it 3 days? Like Esther fasted 3 days. I fasted 3 days last year.
Oh my God.
They're like, no, man, that's not. So that's kind of what you guys did with the Matzah Yom Kippur. Like you said, everything.
We are all
went
in.
out. That's right. Yeah, it was. It was.
So you decided, like, you know what? Maybe we need a little more, help with this.
Yeah, and we figured out a good bit. There were more Jewish sources along the way, I think, that we started to dig into to kind of to say, okay, now there's some answers we're going to be doing, because you can find answers. You can find, okay, in Judaism, how does this done? Okay, you don't have to read the whole thing. In the years after, it became a lot closer to Judaism. The actual ways. I mean, we were doing Birkat Hamazon at this point. We were doing Sukkot. This is like 2018, 2019. We're setting up an actual kosher sukkah. Our poor UPS driver, when he comes to deliver packages, would walk like this the whole time. It wouldn't ask any questions, but okay, he's gonna, what's going on with these people?
Part of the reason we were in isolation for so long instead of finding a community is I was actually very sick. And that's how I became an herbalist. So I couldn't travel. It was only an hour and a half and to the closest Orthodox community, but I couldn't make that drive for a long time. So it took us until 2020, when I had recovered enough for us to start making that drive. That was the first time we showed up in an actual Orthodox community.
Wait, so yeah, but I mean, all this you're discussing, this is before any thought of converting.
Yeah.
So you're telling me from 2014 to 2020, there was no conversion yet?
No conversion yet.
No official rabbi.
And you guys are living as Jews.
It got to that point. I think by 2018, I was beginning to say, hey, what are we doing? There's not a, how are we going to continue life in isolation? I was starting to ask those big questions, like just in my mind, like wondering, like, if this is our path, what is it that what's the future look like? And so I was beginning to wonder. I mean, of course, we were in Orthodox books, and I'm starting to be in those circles on social media and just like see people living life. And I'm wondering, like, wait, maybe we are supposed to convert, but I don't know how. Like, how can we do this?
So you didn't know. You weren't sure.
Yeah, no, it was still.
I think I was sure that we would somehow get there, but I could not see the road ahead. We were so rooted into life in Mississippi and like his work, and I didn't know what that looked like. So I just kept like that became the prayer, I suppose, or like the heart's desire. Like I know this is what we need. I know this is where we're going to end up, but I have no idea how we're going to get there.
Yeah, I felt very, I think, intimidated by the idea of going someplace, because I was comfortable for a while in doing the Jewish things, felt right, definitely connected. We were doing more and more each year. And then it became, well, if we really are going to continue down this path, I think it does lead to Judaism. We sat down, we had a few of these talks as a couple, where we'd sit down. Okay, let's go into Fantasyland. There's nothing going to come of this conversation whatsoever. We're going to make no decisions in this conversation. It's a free
Every
for all.
married couple knows.
but so let's just talk without consequence, and so. We ended up with that conversation. Okay, we need to go find a place to and convert to Judaism. Let's go ahead and start that process. And I think one of the things that pushed us over the edge, and it's funny ironic that it ended up at the same time that I think Jews all around the world felt this, because it was COVID. We davened Yom Kippur again, alone. Like, knew the service, knew everything. We were. It
was 2019.
Full fasting, doing the service correctly, the whole thing together. And I've never felt, and haven't felt even since, so alone in my entire life, because I knew there was more. And as a man needing those 10 men to dive in with and to make that connection to Hashem on such a special day as Yom Kippur, to have something, never even having touched a Torah, any of these things, I just think that emptiness was a cry to say, okay, we need this, and this is something that we're going to choose.
Wow, to me, it's so fascinating, and I just gets me thinking, like, maybe there's more. But like, when I'm in shul on Yom Kippur in 2020 or 2019, the that there was 2 Jews in Oxford, Mississippi, you know, in their little cabin davening fully Yom Kippur, you know, probably the only Jews in Oxford, Mississippi davening Yom Kippur fully.
Maybe in all of Mississippi.
Yeah, maybe, but like that's so fascinating to me, and that need for wanting more.
Yeah.
So to me, it's crazy. Like 6 years, you guys are like basically doing Judaism, but I guess the fear of leaving where you are and having to leave everything you're comfortable with, was keeping you from actually making that conversion step.
Yeah, I think that even if I had known more the steps involved in the journey into that conversion, I think it would have been chosen sooner. But not even fear of the unknown, but just the unknown of the unknown. What's the next steps? And I'm sitting here thinking, I was a Southern Baptist youth pastor. You know, how are they going to accept, you know, this, you know, and there's other stories, and you can read them, and I read them, and they were very encouraging, of other people that had also gone down even more Christian than that journeys to Judaism. And then, but it was a fear of change, a fear of income, because that was my income. Oxford was where everything came for us. It was our foundation. It was my family.
At this point, we knew that conversion meant moving into a community. Yeah. It wasn't just, we could go to a synagogue and say we want to be Jewish and then come back to Mississippi and live our lives. Like, we knew it meant moving to a Jewish community.
Yeah, and that was also hard, because part of your healing journey was was things to do with mold and the exposure to mold. And in Mississippi, the humidity is so high all year round that almost every home is moldy. So we spent a year and a half, 2 years building a custom home. I was a contractor and built this home ourselves from scratch in a way that was a mold-proof home. I mean, it was our home that we planned to retire and die in. This was it. We weren't going anywhere. For sure, foundationally, we weren't going anywhere. And then to finish and move into that home in December of 2020, and literally a few months later make the decision to start going to Memphis was like, why? Like,
but I did recover enough to start making the journey. Like, it was the final piece I needed for my health to be able to travel, to eventually move to Atlanta, Georgia, to move to Israel. Like, I needed that recovery time. So looking back, you know, you can see, that was the hand of Hashem. Like, everything was as it was supposed to be. But in the moment, thinking, this is what we've worked toward so that I can be healthy again, and to leave it all behind because we want to be Jewish was just, that in itself was scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where was the first place you went when you decided, okay, we need to leave and we need to like go do this whole conversion thing?
I think the first shul we walked into was Baron Hirsch in Memphis, Tennessee. And the first Jew I ever even introduced myself to was the cantor for the Anshe Sephard shul that was there. Introduced myself, and it was a fantastic connection. In fact, they were just in Israel here recently, and messaged and like, hey, we're here. We tried to meet up, but it didn't work. And just that first time walking in, completely and totally just open. I have no idea what to experience. Have no idea where to go. We knew there were men and women sections. It was the wrong time, really. There were no women there. We kind of went before because we knew Shabbos was like a special time, and we didn't want to just, hey, the first time being Shabbat. We wanted to go in on a weekday to kind of say, hey, but of course there wasn't too many people there. It was beginning 8 stages of COVID, so things were starting to get more isolated. But that was it. That was Memphis, Tennessee.
Wow. So picture the scene. You're in Israel. Maybe you're doing business in Israel. And there's stuff to deal with. There's paperwork, there's inheritance, let's say, or power of attorney, or maybe you're making a real estate transaction in Israel, which is very common for listeners of this podcast. Now, who do you turn to? You're going to take a lawyer from America? No, you need someone who knows Israeli law. And that's my friends at Rubel & Co. Law. Yes, that is Rubel & Co. Law. Because you need someone in your corner that understands the legal system in Israel. And they are based in Jerusalem. So if you're buying real estate there, if you have inheritance that you need to sort out there, you need to take care of a power of attorney, all that stuff that can make your head really hurt, Rubel & Co. Law takes care of that. And they speak to you like you're human. They're not going to chew your ear off with legal jargon that you're not going to understand. They make sure you understand all that's happening. And that's not so simple, especially in Israel. And that's why you need Rubel & Co. Law in your corner. So, my friends,
head to rubellaw.co.il. That is rubellaw.co.il. Check them out. You, your friends, your grandparents, your parents, your sister, your brother, whoever is doing this type of business in Israel, you need a lawyer in your corner. Make sure to check them out today. And you may be thinking, hey, what if I want to actually live in Eretz Yisrael? Well, what's the first step I take? Well, you need to find a place to live. And that, my friends, is Givat HaShalva. Really 20 minutes away from Yerushalayim's backyard. This is a stunning new development. Over 1,400 units. But it's not all about the physicality. It's the community that they're building. Like-minded people coming together to build a community where you can raise your family, not just retire and find a place to kick your legs up. You're raising families. You want your grandkids there. You want your kids there. Givat HaShalva is a choice that you want to be making. You're going to hit the link in the show notes and find out more about this beautiful, beautiful development being built and how you can get involved. So if you're thinking about moving to Eretz Yisrael, Givat HaShalva needs to be the number one thing on your list that you check out. Let me tell you, they're building this place with real care and dignity. And it's honestly a Kiddush Hashem. Like, this is a way From Yidden can live nicely by Kavadik. It is a place that you want to see. GivatHashalva.com. Check it out for yourself. See what they're working on and see how you maybe can find a home there.
Okay, so I guess tell me about the process of meeting a rabbi and then having this conversation of like, so this is what we're doing. Now what?
Yeah, so we went, and the first rabbi we met was the rabbi of Anshe Sephard, and he was the converting rabbi. Everybody knew him as the converting rabbi. And so, you go, you think there's going to be a couple introductions, meet several times, see you a few times. But literally, I remember like 4 or 5 sentences into the conversation was, so y'all converting? Do you want to convert? And we're going, whoa. Of course, by this time we had decided we wanted to, so we had the answer to that question, but it definitely was like, these people are serious. It's like, you're here to convert or you're not. Like, what's going on? So, that was our kind of the first meeting. And of course, we said we wanted to. And that started our process there. In Memphis.
We started driving in, spending Shabbat. We would stay in a hotel and walk to shul. But of course, I mean, I'm sure this is the case in a lot of communities. The hotel, even though it's in the Eruv, is like on the far side of the Eruv. So like you're walking 2 miles on Shabbat just to get to the synagogue. And then, so like that was our experience. Because of course, like we wanted to stay in the Eruv. Like we wanted to observe Shabbat and do all these things.
Yeah, I think it was the end of the week.
What if someone told you at that point, like, oh, you don't need to really keep the Eruv because you're not fully Jewish yet, so that's not something. Right. What would you say to that?
They actually did. In fact, it was you have to break Shabbos. You have to find some way to break it.
We had no idea.
But even for us, I think at this point through our observance, driving a vehicle was too much. Like if we were going to break Shabbos, I was going to go turn on a light switch. And so we always tried to use that as an opportunity to do some good. So somebody would need their AC turned on or off. They would go, oh, it's hot Shabbos in here. Boy. It's cold in here. We go, gotcha. Oh, we forgot to turn the lights up. Click. We broke Shabbos and we helped you guys out. I think that was the good that maybe we were able to do there. But doing anything more than that felt like too much. I felt like that was bad. Right. Like I'm breaking Shabbos here, but also understood the realism that I wasn't Jewish and I can't keep Shabbat.
Right. Were you guys living, make sure I have this correct, you were living in Mississippi still and you were driving in for the weekend, staying in a hotel, walking to the shul?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going home home after Shabbat and going back to work.
Right. Okay. So the progression of that, how'd that go?
We loved it.
To actual.
Yeah. So there was a lot going on in the Memphis community. Of course, COVID, different stuff with the shuls. They were like merging and combining. So it ended up, long story short, that for this section at least, that the rabbi in Memphis couldn't complete our conversion.
He was working another job as well as the 2 shuls combined due to COVID and financial stuff. They combined. So he was taking on a different rabbi role. And the shul didn't have time for him to do it, and he was doing it in his own spare time. And he basically said, yes, I can do it, but expect a really long journey because I don't have the time to invest. So he didn't tell us no. It just was more of a...
It was very nice that he was upfront about it.
Amazing.
And he connected us with Rabbi Reese from the CRC to help us figure out, okay, so what's the next step? Because obviously this means we need to change to a different community. which
Right.
means restarting conversion. And like this whole process, this means moving. Like we can't drive back and forth anymore.
He had put us in contact with another rabbi in the north that was also from Mississippi that was also a ger. And so it was very helpful to kind of get the framework. He was very helpful. We had weekly sessions with him, not as a part of our conversion path, but kind of to help us through the transition. Like it was a very good kind of comfort thing there. And one of the rabbis from Memphis of the Young Israel knew the rabbi in Atlanta and was actually able to give him a phone call and say, I've got these people, you need to meet them. And now we know the back end of that story because we were just in Atlanta giving our story. And Rabbi Adam Starr, the rabbi in Atlanta, says, yeah, I got this phone call. And I'm like, yeah, these people are going to come in. They're from Mississippi. They want to convert. And he's going, oh, boy, here we go. You know, so I couldn't imagine. So that's how that transaction happened. It was a Jewish geography. Everybody knows everybody. Y'all need to go here. And
it was very, like, people were at that point helpful. They knew they couldn't help us in Memphis, and they were really like trying to help us figure out where to go next, because of course we're kind of shell shocked thinking, oh my gosh, like this is a completely different path than we expected. This is quite the curveball. So people connected us, told us where to go, and we were like, okay, I guess this means we're going to Atlanta now. So from January 2023 until May 2023, we started driving 5 hours from Oxford, Mississippi to Atlanta, Georgia. We would stay in the Atlanta community for Shabbat, and then Motzei Shabbat, we would turn around and drive home. And we did that every week from January to May. Every Shabbat.
You're doing
10 hours of driving. And
10 hours of driving.
Yeah.
It was fine
And a
until the
weekend.
time change. Once we hit daylight savings, that was so rough.
Right. It was
That was
tough.
rough.
Oh, because
Yeah.
did it cross your mind like, hey, maybe we move?
We
Yeah,
were in
yeah,
the
we
process
were
of
trying-
figuring that out.
Mississippi?
We were trying to move, trying to figure out, like,
Okay.
do we rent a house? Do we rent an apartment? Like, we were trying to figure it out, and we finally moved in May. But we were going to be in the community for every Shabbat that we could, because Rabbi Starr said, I'm not starting conversion until you live in the community. And we were like, whoa. Okay, this, we agree, but wow.
Yeah.
And so we weren't going to wait until May to just show up in the community and say we wanted to convert. We needed to be there. We needed that connection. So as crazy as it was, like, I can't believe we did that. It was insane. We drove 10 hours every weekend. We did it for Pesach too.
But even then, it didn't still seem like the burden that thinking
No.
of going back to it was then. Shabbat was, I think, twice as restful for us while we were there.
Yeah.
We got to meet a lot of really cool people, and everybody was
Amazing
very
people in
welcoming.
Atlanta.
I mean, the first time we were there, we had three invites. That next Shabbat, hey, you're going to come to us for lunch, and it was super warm, super welcoming, and we wanted to be there, and it was totally worth 10 hours. It would have been worth 20 hours.
Yeah. It was the best.
And you're enmeshed in like the Orthodox community there.
Mhm.
It's right there
Like
on.
this is what.
Yeah, Cocoa Hills, Atlanta.
Cocoa Hills, La Vista Road. There's 8-9 shuls on that one strip. It is the place in Atlanta.
Should we play some Jewish geography for a second?
Sure.
Just like why not?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
You guys know Rabbi Dave Silverman,
I know the name.
Yeah, we know. I know.
Yeah.
I know the silver. Yeah, for sure.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's someone who I know from Atlanta.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a big
We just had to
group
do
there.
that.
A lot of people moving there. Yeah.
So I guess like that's very interesting. I'm like, it's like this is very humbling for me because you guys are sacrificing so much for trying to get your Judaism every single week, every single day, really, but every single week in a very serious way. I guess May comes and you found a place and you were saying, okay, we're going.
Yeah.
What's that like for your family though? It sounds like you lived close to them and
Yeah. That was tough. I
kinda
mean,
moving away.
that was our whole plan, was to be in Memphis and to move to Memphis. And so, okay, work would work out. I could still come in. It would be a bad commute, but I could still come in. And then it was, no, you can't commute 5 hours. I mean, that's ridiculous. You turn around and come home. And so that was a big deal. Family definitely said, like, it was big. It was hard for them,
Yeah.
Yeah, but we did it.
We ended up seeing family more though
think so.
because we lived in Atlanta, because now we actually made the effort to connect.
Yeah.
Instead of living in the same town 10 minutes down
and it
the
put us
road, you never
closer
see each
to
other.
it put us closer to your family.
Yeah.
So it was a closer drive to go see your people.
But we went from living
really?
on a house
Interesting.
in the middle of 40 acres to living in a 3-bedroom
complex.
apartment in
With
downtown
with
Atlanta.
800 neighbors in the same space.
It was quite
No
the adjustment.
way.
I loved the apartment though.
Oh,
It was
gosh.
cozy. I really enjoyed it. It was small. It was easy to clean.
No
But-
grass to mow. I grew up on 3 acres of grass mowing. I mean, it was an every other week event.
Yeah.
Hours was invested into keeping your grass pretty, and didn't have to do that anymore. It was crazy.
No, but instead you had to just find parking probably. Like,
Parking, and my
Yeah.
big diesel truck wasn't as acceptable there, so we ended up trading it out for a minivan.
Right.
And there was a lot of change, and I would say compromise, but there was just a lot of just change.
Yeah.
At this point, we had made so many decisions and so many things that these choices just were like, oh, this is what's best. Let's do it.
Right.
Wow. Okay, so how long was the process once you moved there in May and the rabbi's like, okay, now that you live here, we can kind of get going here. So
Right.
how long did that take? And in that process, did you learn anything new that you hadn't already known for the prior 6 years that you were kind of living as Jews?
Well, initially, I mean, we fully believed we were completely starting over. Like it was a new rabbi. We knew it was a new community. Like we fully were believed and were committed to the fact that it was starting from ground zero on conversion, and we were all in. As for did we learn anything else, I think it was just a deepening. Like we never felt like, oh my gosh, we have to go over this again. I mean, we go through the Parsha, all of us as Jews, we go every year. Like you're repeating, you learn something more. That's how Judaism felt at that point. Like we were given the chance to deepen it, to learn more, to, like fine tune things, to make sure I knew how to keep a kosher kitchen, to make sure that we knew how to host Shabbat meals. Like we're getting to experience all these meals with people and see their different minhagim and like what is special. And as Gerim, we get to choose what customs we bring into our home. So you're like, oh, I like how they did that for Shabbat. Oh, that was cool for Havdalah. I really like that. And being able to like see what the community was doing, I think it was really great. Like it gave us the chance to just explore and see what it was that we truly connected with.
Yeah, it wasn't something new, but it was an expression of what we had been doing and what we'd worked so hard to want to be able to do, to be able to move into the community and express in that way. I fully intended to go and sit down with Rabbi Starr that first meeting and him to break out the books and, okay, guys, here you're going to start here and we're going to go through this chapter and you're going to tell me what this. And that was what I was expecting. The first meeting was 2.5 hours. It was maybe 2 hours. It was what we're doing now, going
Like,
through
just literally
steps
telling our story
and telling the
like,
story
what we've
and
done.
asking some in-depth questions and what about this, and that after that he recommended us to go to our first Beit Din meeting, which was via Zoom.
It was right after Shavuot.
Yeah.
So we had moved in May, early May, which was before, and I think Shavuot that year was at the end of May. So this is probably like the last couple days of May.
Yeah.
And we're having our Beit Din meeting. We did not expect that.
No, it was
a complete shock. We're like,
it was
okay.
very fast, and it was different rabbis. It was a different group because the United States is set up into different geography groups. For like the CRC takes a certain amount over this way, and it's those states, and those rabbis go to the CRC. We're in the RCA, so a completely different group of rabbis, people we'd never heard of before, and we're sitting down with them for the first time. It was intimidating, to say the least.
I mean, it was a very long meeting, and it started out with basic questions like.
so like the first, you got the Zoom, you got everybody on the screen, and they're like, so I think they called me Jake, or they called me Jacob, because they weren't using my Hebrew name anyway, and they're like, so where do you find scripture in the shul, in the synagogue? And I'm going. And one of them literally goes, it's not a trick question. And I'm going, oh, the Torah. And you're like, yeah, that's right. I'm like, I got this. If this is the only questions we have, this is going to be real breezy. Oh boy, was I wrong. We quickly came out of multiple choice questions into essay. Essay like, form.
How do you keep Shabbat? And then they wanted us to literally go describe
step by step.
how we keep Shabbat, from what we do to prepare for Shabbat into Friday night, how we went into Shabbat morning all the way through the day. Like, what did our Shabbat look like? And
this is very unique for them also, because like you, again, they're sitting with two people who have been keeping Shabbos for years.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not someone who wants to convert that they have to really start from scratch and they don't really know that much. I feel like they're kind of being like, okay, so how about you tell us what you've been doing? Let's make this a little quicker,
Right.
And we'll sign at the bottom.
They also asked like what I did to keep a kosher kitchen. And so I had to describe that, like literally like what our everyday. And I did have, I guess it's simpler than others because we don't eat dairy. We just don't. In true Jewish form, he's lactose intolerant. So
Of course,
we just
you should have known from the day you were born that you were Jewish.
Boom.
It's-
so I was like, okay, so I just have a meat kitchen and like I'm describing everything that we did. And what else did they ask?
Hebrew reading.
Oh,
So, אני מדבר רק קצת עברית.
that's all he knows.
That's all I know. So I opened up. They wanted us to read, so I opened up to what Elenu, I think.
No, Ashrei.
Ashrei. And so we go through, and I'm like, Ashrei. I mean, because I know the English. You tell me, and I'll start right now, and I'll give you the whole English. I mean, I completely verbatim memorized, but you start putting me, and so here I am, 6 words in. They're like, okay, that's good. And so they're like, I'm gonna read. So I gave it to her, and of course she goes, sure, and I'm going. What?
I started learning Hebrew in 2018. I love languages. I was fascinated, and so I started learning like Old Hebrew for the Siddur and the Tanakh in 2018, and I was already in advanced levels. I can read great. I just started reading.
So I look on the screen, and here's my Rabbi Star. He's like this, kind of covering his mouth a little bit. And when she starts reading, I mean, it's like full on, like he's trying to cover it up.
Like he's laughing.
After the meeting, I confront him and I say, Rabbi Star, I really don't appreciate, you laughing at me. Of course, I was joking with him. He's like, no. It was 99%. I was beaming with joy because you guys were just knocking it out of the park. 1% I was laughing because your wife showed you up. So,
big time.
Yeah, it was good.
If you're hurt or find yourself in an accident, which let's be real, it happens more than we like it, you need the right lawyer on your side. That's when you call the Rothenberg Law Firm. For over 55 years, they've been a cornerstone in our community, helping people just like you. They've won and collected billions of dollars for their clients. And the best part, if they don't win, you don't pay. When you choose Rothenberg, you're not just getting a lawyer, you're getting a trusted friend who treats you like family. They understand that a personal injury can turn your life upside down. So they go well beyond just legal representation. They will make sure your medical bills are paid by the appropriate parties and that your family is taken care of during this rough time. Everybody knows Rothenberg, so you know they're the name you can trust. So if you ever find yourself needing legal help, remember to head to injurylawyer.com or call them 1-800-624-8888 for a free case evaluation. Make sure to keep the Rothenberg Law Firm on speed dial because not every injury lawyer has the resources to stand up to the big corporations and insurance companies. They've been fighting the good fight for over 5 decades, and they are not slowing down. I hope you never need them, but if you do, the Rothenberg family is there for you. A quick word from my friends at Town Appliance. They have been with us since, a very long time here. And they've been with all of you since 1979. Such good friends of Meaningful People. And that's why anything you need, refrigeration, dishwashers, laundry, whatever it is in the appliance game, Town Appliance has you covered. You're going to head to townappliance.com. That is townappliance.com. They've been servicing our community since 1979, multiple locations. But the website you need to know is townappliance.com. You can even go to the link in the show notes and message them on WhatsApp and tell them, hey, I heard about you for the last, 30 weeks on Meaningful People. And I need to find out because I need a new fridge. I need a new vacuum cleaner. I need a new dishwasher. I need new appliances. And the place you're going to go to is townappliance.com. They constantly have sales going on their website. So head to there right now, townappliance.com.
So for many people, once they start meeting the Bezdin, it could be years.
Right.
It literally could be just pushing and years and years. How long was that for you though?
It was end of May. They had the meeting, and we finished conversion Savan 26, which was in the middle of June.
Yeah, like the second week of June.
Second week of June. It was the most shocking moment of my life. I can tell you where I was standing after Minka Marav. Rabbi Star meets me outside and goes, how does June sound? And I'm going, for the next meeting, that's kind of quick. And he knows, no, to finish, there's a group coming through and they think that you're ready. And I just,
Like, he came home and told me, and he was like shell shocked. I think I started crying. Like, it was the most unexpected.
yeah. But they had done their research. They had gone back to every rabbi we had talked with. They went back to the people in Memphis that we had been in community with, and the poor people to invite these people that want to convert into their homes. The next thing you know, we're going and doing hand washing and saying all the blessings the correct way, and not talking during this and not touching the wine. We knew all these things. We shocked these people. They didn't know what to do with it. So from that journey to there was just it was
wow,
that's
incredible.
remarkable. Was there any at all moment of, oh boy, like now it's actually becoming very, very real? Not that it wasn't real. You guys were living Jewish lives, but
conversion. It was like
it wasn't until after that it's when they asked us after they wanted us to do our first blessing, and so
like to say Shema
and all that.
Or candy.
That's when it dawned on me. The first time to say Shema as a Jew, it was. Then it was okay. Oh my gosh! Now it's time to be Jewish. Now it's game time. Now is the responsibility. Wait, now I have to do all these things for real. Like there's no in between. So
yeah. And we finished. We did.
Wow.
Like we had another wedding. Everything on a Thursday.
Oh,
but I'm thinking in the back of my mind, oh my gosh, I have to go home and like cashier the kitchen. And what are we doing? It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy.
Your mom came in because we had to have a chaperone.
Yeah, because
we weren't married from the time after the mikvah until that evening when we got remarried. We weren't Jewishly married.
We couldn't be together. And so my mom, I mean, at that point, we're literally months away from being married 10 years. And my mom's in the apartment going, what? You can't be in the same room together? Like, what's going on?
That's amazing. That is amazing. How long was it between the conversion to the next?
Just a couple hours.
A few hours. Yeah.
Just so a couple hours.
Yeah. It was early morning.
Jake, you sure you didn't want to take? Yaakov, you sure you want to like take a week or two?
That's what everybody was saying. Like, hey, you got an opportunity here. Like, let's get this out.
Like, imagine you would have turned to Mood and been like, wait a minute, I get a choice now.
No, it's it was never one of those. It was more like I have to do a Jewish wedding, and I'm the main star, and I've never been to a Jewish wedding. Our first Jewish wedding was our own.
Wow.
But the community was incredible.
Was there people there?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
They were incredible. They found out, of course, last minute that we're finishing conversion and getting married, and people in the community showed up and were there, and it was the sweetest thing because, of course, I mean, we've only known these people since January, and so 6 months, and they're here and they're celebrating with us as we finish conversion and the fact that we're getting remarried, and it was really special, and we had a wonderful time. It was
amazing.
Really,
that's so.
I remember more from this wedding than the one that we had.
Our family came in.
Years ago.
My parents and her mom came in. So
yeah, it was really special.
I'm sure they were shell shocked.
A little bit,
this is really like you guys were kind of living this life.
Yeah, and awkward, So there's these things said in Hebrew, what was said, what's going on, but the people in the community were like helping them through and showing them this is what they just did and this is what they just said, and it was just like whoa, it was next level. Has always been that way in Atlanta. Phenomenal all the way around.
So I mean, from that point on, you're living Jewish lives. Was it until 2023 kind of just regular Jewish living until kind of things changed for you guys?
We didn't get that opportunity. Literally, we finished conversion in June, and then soon thereafter, as you're getting into the first set of Hagim, is October 7th.
Yeah.
There is no...
Right, so this is 2023.
Yeah. So there's no normalcy at all there. We were connected very well with Israel, made multiple trips, 2 weeks each, exploring Jerusalem, exploring the country.
Some of our really good friends in the Atlanta community were actually the Shlichim that were there from Israel. We really connected with them, loved being with them for meals. And it was... October 7th had such I mean, of course, an impact on everybody, but like to see the Israelis in the shul, and yeah, it was, I don't know. I mean, it was a pivotal moment. Like we knew when we converted and like on the path, we're like, okay, Israel in the future, you know, like everybody's dream, right? Like, oh, we'll make Aliyah someday. But October 7th happened, and we were like, no, we need to be there. Like, we're not waiting. We need to be there.
Yeah, no, it was immediate. We had the red alert turned on for any time there was any type of rockets or anything. It would ping our phone, so it would give us a chance, an opportunity to dive in and to really connect with Israel anywhere. And so that night, I remember waking up, and it was just it didn't stop.
We came home.
We came home after. That's right. You came home to
hearing
from
the amount of rockets and everything that
Shabbat.
were happening that morning in Israel, and like.
I felt it then. I felt
Wait, did you had the red alert?
I did.
You had the red alert thing on prior to October 7th?
Correct. Yeah. Because I mean, there were little skirmishes and things going on, and anytime it would happen,
so you'd use that as an opportunity to dive in. So
yeah.
So I mean, I imagine like the morning of October 7th, you probably think this thing is glitching or something. Like this is.
We didn't know what to think.
This can't
We
be
were
true.
in shock.
We knew.
We knew
something
was wrong.
Yeah.
It was,
and I felt such shame then, because coming from a very Southern upbringing, redneck, patriotic, God and country, you're there when there's times of need, no matter what. Safety, not safety, whatever. If it makes sense, it doesn't make sense. You're with your people.
Like the fact that we were
in
the States,
away from it. I immediately felt this calling of, I'm not in the right place, and I will never, ever have this opportunity where I'm not there to help ever again.
Wow. I'm just curious, both of you growing up, was there any at all feelings towards the Jewish people or feelings towards specifically Israel? Like obviously there's a lot of people in the world that have opinions of Israel, but because you grew up, again, very patriotic, there's a very big America First movement now, right? Like, was there any Israel talk in your home? What was that?
The very first dance class my mom put me in was Israeli folk dance. Why there was Israeli folk dance in Knoxville, Tennessee, I have no idea. That's how I got started in dance, was being put in these classes one summer, I suppose. I grew up, my mom ate matzah. She likes matzah. I like matzah because of that. And that was like her go-to snack. And so, I mean, of course, I didn't know that Jews ate that on Passover, but I knew it was a Jewish food.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That was probably the extent of my exposure.
Doctrinally, I mean, you could definitely studied immense amounts into it, but from a very young age, basically there was no difference between a Jew and a Christian. Jews just didn't believe in our same Savior person, and so it wasn't. In fact, because it was tied into end times and eschatology and all these things, the church that I attended would every month would donate $5,000 for Jews to make Aliyah, because the belief is that all the Jews have got to be back in Israel for this Savior to come back, and so they're funding that. When I asked for my $5,000 when we made Aliyah, that just got crickets. But we tried. I don't think
so.
Yeah.
So this happens obviously in October, and it sounds like you guys you looked at each other and like, this is. We're not staying here.
Yeah.
How quick did you actually make that move?
We were here in November.
Well, we didn't move in November.
No, but we
visited.
We visited with the intent of finding where to live.
Yeah.
It was a 2-part mission. It was coming. We were bringing Atlantic Community had donated thousands of dollars. We went and grabbed some gear, coats and stuff, and so we brought them over. And we were immediately just looking, going places we'd never gone before, kind of as a Hail Mary pass. We got to find where we're staying and make this something, starting the paperwork process, everything. We knew it took time. In fact, there's a 10-month time gap.
Yeah. Like legally, you're not able
to
make Aliyah after conversion for 10 months.
Yeah. So we had that time.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Boom.
So that people can't just convert and get the benefits. Like that be the reason they decide to become Jewish.
Yeah.
You have to be Jewish for 10 months in the community living, and then the rabbi, your conversion rabbi, has to send a letter to the Jewish agency and say, yes, they're still Jewish, they're still observing everything, they actually want to be Jewish. It's a whole process.
Wow. So were you in Israel 10 months later?
We were.
Yeah, it was right at maybe 10 and a
Wow.
half.
Yeah.
It was June.
We moved, we made Aliyah July 18th.
Yeah, so it's a little over that. But
Yeah. As soon as we could.
Wow.
And
there was paperwork problems, so 10 months wasn't really realistic anyway.
That's so, you guys are a lot of credit to you guys. You really followed your hearts through every single step of this whole thing. Like I feel like you're the epitome of there's doing what's right and there's just being very passive. And you guys were just doing what's right, according to you. If you felt like Judaism was the thing to do, you did it. You felt like moving to Israel was the thing to do, you did it. That's really remarkable. So obviously you guys have been there, and you have a third member of the family over here. Who
Yeah, it was born
seems
January.
pretty, wow. Born January. So where in Israel do you guys live?
We're in Tekoa, which is part of Judea. It's just south of Jerusalem.
So you're back to a little more of your southern roots, more land.
One of the trips we did was 2 weeks here. We did 15 cities in 13 days in a rental car, and just drove. We would drive. We'd find the local Makolet. We'd stop. We'd get out. We'd go to around to the shuls. We'd tour the parks. We'd look at the schools. We'd look at the area and go, yay, nay. Well, we did a lot of that, and we're like, okay, this is Israel. This is great, but this doesn't really feel home. And Tekoa wasn't one of those 15 cities. We had friends that were there, and we went to visit those friends. And I remember pulling in, going, I like this place. It's got land. It's open. It's fresh air. We can breathe. The people are nice. We should check on prices of living here. And so that's immediately what we did. It was a no-brainer as soon as.
There's also probably stuff that you need to be conscious of, that you're not living in, obviously, Oxford, Mississippi. There is actual threats in these parts of Israel, right? Like, this is not, you're living in Yehuda, it's not Pasha, right?
Yeah. No, but I mean, that's always been, I was always I was a guns guy. I was a safety guy, karate growing up, very conscious of those things. So you grow up with that and ready to defend yourself because you're a good old boy. Anyway, so coming to this area, you're like, oh, there's actually some viable threats here. This is, but I feel safer there than I did in Atlanta. In fact, we had an incident where we were spit on in Atlanta by someone who didn't agree with our way we were dressed. I had an IDF coat on with the IDF symbol on it, and he wanted to know if we were part of the IDF, and we said no, but we just supported them, and he immediately just started escalating and ended up spitting on us, got the police called, everything, threatened our lives right there. So it's like anybody can just walk up to you there. In Tekoa, you got kids running around barefoot, and everybody, and you can tramp anywhere you want to. It's a very safe place. You know who your enemy or the danger, where the danger is.
Right.
Wow. Is that kind of the end of your? That kind of brings us to today.
It does.
It brings us here.
Yeah, we have a little Jewish girl, and she's a Sabra too, and we did all the hard work so that she doesn't have to.
What's her name?
Libby Ronit.
Libby.
And sometimes she says bye with a southern accent, so it's in there somewhere. That southern United States is in there somewhere.
One day she's gonna watch this. She's gonna be like, guys, where is my babysitter? And first of all, I'm famous, and she's gonna be very thankful that you guys did this for her. She's gonna be living a Jewish life, a religious life, and be very thankful and hear your journey. It's she's gonna hear where she came from, the roots of where she came from.
Yeah.
But it's also the people here, like picking Tekoa and picking Israel and a place to live. I had the privilege. I dive in on Har HaBayit quite frequently, and there's a young man that wanted to go with me, and he spoke very broken English, and I of course spoke no Hebrew, and his English was way better than my Hebrew, and we're talking on the way, driving in on the way, and I told him, I said, you are the reason I feel comfortable raising my little girl here, because I want her to be like you, running around Tekoa, loving Hashem. I mean, davening in Tekoa Bet is, because we're like, not Aleph or Tekoa Bet, it's like, It's in this caravan, pieced together shul that's just built by the love of the community. Everyone's got their artistic flavor put on it, and it's a one of a kind place. And the youth that come out of the woodworks on Kabbalat Shabbat that just dig in, and the whole place is jumping, and the passion that's there. And I said, that's the connection, that's the community. This is what we were looking for. This is what Hashem pointed us toward, so that we could raise our little girl in this type of environment.
Yeah. I mean, and the fact that we have a little girl, to be married, over 11 years, and then to have her is in Israel is like the timing of everything is, it's only Hashem to be able to do these things, to be where we're at. It's quite the journey, and we're just thankful. We really are.
Wow. Well, that's so insane. It's so crazy. I really appreciate you guys sharing it. I want to record one extra segment that we do. If I'm just going to ask you a few more questions. First of all, I want to ask you, Amuna, like the name, right? Why you chose, I guess, the name Amuna from Gwen. Obviously, I'm sure they're like, okay, let's pick a Hebrew name. For Yaakov here, it was pretty, I guess, simple. You weren't going to go with Moshe. You went with Yaakov because you were.
My parents named me Will.
But yeah, they had, if they ever ask you like, why did you do this? Say, hey, listen, you set me up for it.
That's right. It's your fault.
It was too similar. You could have named me Chris.
That's right.
It would have been a lot harder.
That's right.
But why the name Amuna?
Been asked this before, and the only thing I can say is as soon as I knew that Amuna was an option for a name, that was my name. I knew it. And I know that is Amuna in and of itself, and like just the inner knowing of this is our path, and I don't know how we're going to get there, but this is what we have to do. I read a quote by Rabbi Sachs, and I can't quote it exactly now, but essentially it was, Emunah is knowing the path is hard and long, and yet doing it anyway. Like believing that Hashem is with you as you go. And I didn't think twice about a name. I didn't consider any other names. I just knew as soon as I saw someone with the name Emunah, that's my name.
Wow.
That simple.
What would you guys say to probably a vast majority of people watching this who are they're from birth, and maybe they even struggle with feeling that spark of Judaism that they were born into, and it's something that you guys chose, though. What would you say to them about the thing that they've had from birth, how they can really cherish that if they're taking it for granted?
Say, first of all, come hang out in Tecobet with me for a couple Shabbat. I'll get your spark back going. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So people have shared with us that our story is inspiring, and never sitting in the other seat. It's hard to think about that, because we definitely weren't from birth. Yeah. But I do remember hearing other people growing up's testimony. Maybe they had a bad life and they came into Christianity and completely changed their lives and cleaned up their lives. And it was very like, oh, wow, this is cool. So I try to compare it to that a little bit, of remembering those things. I think that our reality is really that we feel the biggest connection being here. One of the biggest things that helped me move into understanding Judaism was actually beginning with the end in mind. I'm a business guy, so I study all these business things. And Stephen Covey says to begin with the end in mind. And what the end was our connection with Hashem, which was made happen through the temple, through Har HaBayit. And
right.
And so me understanding that and studying it and going there and knowing the archaeology and meeting some of these rabbis who are just building these models, and this is what happened here, and this is why we're doing this, and that's the connection. The first time coming into Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm seeing all these Jews daven, I go, oh, I get it. We're continuing this until we get it again, until we are able to do this again in this location. And so that digging in to that, I think, is inspiring for anyone that might be like, I need some, to think about where we're supposed to be and why we're doing what we're doing, and to come here, come visit the land, come connect on a different level.
I think it also goes back to what Ruth said, and like the God of Israel is with the Jewish people, and I remember like thinking all the way back to Memphis and people asking like, why do you want to convert? Like all this stuff's going on in the world. And of course, this is even pre-October 7th. And it's like, the God of Israel is with you. We want to be with you. We know this is the true God. And we did fall in love with Israel. And I do believe that like increased the spark in our Judaism because we connected to the land and the people. And we recently were in the States and I felt it, like the difference of leaving Israel. Like I cried when the plane took off. It's like, oh my gosh, we're leaving Eretz HaKodesh. Like, what are we doing? Like, please Hashem, give us the zakut to return. Like, I know this isn't something I can take for granted. And like to live in this sphere and to find the beauty of Judaism and like life revolves around Judaism here. Like if someone is missing that spark, like do whatever you can to come visit Israel. Like be here, be in the land, connect, go to the Kotel, go to Har Habayit if that's something you feel drawn to do, and connect to Hashem again here, and that will reignite the fire inside of you for Judaism. Like there's something about Israel and something so special like that.
You agree, don't you?
Like there's just something so special about being here. It really is.
Yeah, no, it really is. Well, listen, I really appreciate it. You guys sharing your story. This is, amazing. It's really amazing. You're leaving me with this crazy itch of just getting on a plane right now and going back there. It's been, I just want to be there. God willing, that'll all happen for everybody. But thank you guys for sharing your story with me.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
There's always a bedroom and there's always a place to dive in and to go to bed anytime you want. I'll pick you up from the airport in a nice shiny black Jeep with Israeli flags hanging off of it.
I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. I just want to let you know, of course, there is more content like this on Meaningful Minute Plus right now. Become a member today. Bonus episodes, off the record episodes of Meaningful People, Stories of Hope, live streams, the Ben Shushan Brothers, Rabbi Shaf, all there for you on Meaningful Minute Plus. I want to let you know I will be spending Pesach at Pesach Bordeaux in Connecticut. And if you reach out to them today through the link in the show notes and mention Meaningful Minute, you will get a percentage off. So if you were waiting, trying to say, ooh, maybe I can get some discount Pesach, well, now is the time. You got a special deal. Mention Meaningful Minute when reaching out to Bordeaux. I want to thank you all for tuning in. A big thank you again to our advertisers who made this episode possible. What a crazy story, right? Yaakov and Amuna Clemens. You guys have questions for them? You want to hear more? Leave it down below in the comment section of this episode. We'll be back with another episode next week. But if you want an episode this week, make sure to be on Meaningful Minute Plus because we put out an episode in the middle of the week last week with a Holocaust survivor that you probably didn't see yet unless you're a Plus member. So become a Plus member right now. Never miss an episode again. Have a great week, guys.